RPS. Gracias.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining tonight's calendar conversation. My name is Shadae Harris, and I have the pleasure of serving as RPS's Chief Engagement Officer. We are thrilled to have you here this evening as we share information about the 2021-2022 calendar proposal that really focuses on equity and providing more instruction to students who need it. But even more important, we want this to be a conversation. We want to hear from you. And so please do not shy away from giving us your feedback on the proposed calendar. So just a couple reminders before we get started. The first is everyone who has joined will be put on mute during the presentation portion. Once that portion is over and we move to question and answer, we would love to have a conversation with you. So at the bottom of your screen, the reactions button has the raise your hand feature, and you can raise your hand. We'll be monitoring who raises their hand, and then we will be calling your name to come off mute and ask your question. If you would like to just put your question in the chat, you can do that too. And I'll be reading those along with Miss Nanette Bailey, who serves as our Northside coordinator. So thank you, Miss Bailey, for being here with us tonight. So again, we will remind you again when we get to that question and answer portion. But right now, I'm gonna turn it over to Superintendent Kamras.
Thank you so much, Dr. Harris. It is wonderful to have so many folks on the town hall tonight. It looks like we have almost 100, so absolutely fantastic. I would like to just first recognize we have a few school board members with us this evening. I believe we have Ms. Gibson, Dr. Harris Mohammed, and Mr. Young. If there are any others, I apologize. I'm trying to scroll through the screen and just see who we have. Please let me know. Would any of the board members like to say a few introductory words? I see Dr. Harris Mohammed on my screen first, so I'll offer that to you first.
Good evening, everybody. Happy, beautiful Wednesday. Thank you all so much for joining us this evening, taking time out of your supper time to listen to a community conversation about a calendar proposal. On behalf of myself, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And thank you for putting this together, Dr. Harris and Nanette Bailey, I believe, the Northside coordinator. Thank you all so very much. I appreciate you. I don't know if you see my heart, but thank you so very much. Thank you, Superintendent Kamras.
Thank you, Dr. Harris Mohammed. Next, Ms. Gibson, would you like to say a few words? I think she is connecting to the audio, so hang tight. All right, while she is connecting, Mr. Young, are you available to say any words?
Yes, sir, and thank you. Just wanted to convey my gratitude to everyone for coming out this evening. Look forward to another, what I'm confident will be a most informative conversation for my colleagues and me, along with the superintendent. Again, grateful and look forward to another terrific discussion this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Young. I have been informed that Ms. White is also here. Ms. White, would you like to say any words?
I would just like to say good evening to everyone on all sides. Thank you for your time, and I greatly appreciate your involvement and commitment to our students at RPS, Richmond Public Schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. White. And it looks like on my screen, Ms. Gibson is still connecting to the audio. So I will get started, but once she is on, I'll pause and make sure she has an opportunity to say a few words. So again, good evening. Thank you all so much for making time to get together on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon. I see Ms. Gibson. Are you able to speak now? Is it working? Ms. Gibson, are there anything you would like to add?
I didn't hear anything for some time.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just was giving all the school board members an opportunity to say words of introduction. So anything that you would like to share?
No, I don't have anything additional to add. I'm happy to be here. Look forward to this discussion.
Thank you. All right, so we will begin. Again, thank you to everybody for making the time. Excited to talk about the calendar proposal for next school year. Before we dive in, and I'm going to share my screen and walk everybody through the actual calendar, just wanted to give a little bit of context. So one of the questions we've heard a lot is, why a year-round type proposal? And really two reasons. One, there has been a lot of interest on the school board for some time around year-round schedules. So much so, in fact, that the board voted last year to direct the administration to come up with a proposal for a year-round calendar. So that was the original impetus. And now that we are hopefully coming to approaching the end of COVID, a second impetus is really to be responsive to what we anticipate will be some learning loss as a result of this past school or the current school year. Through no fault of our extraordinary teachers and principals and everybody else who are working so incredibly hard and diligently, but just the inevitable reality that virtual instruction for most kids is not as strong as in-person instruction. So those are really the two primary reasons. And the calendar, as Dr. Harris said, is really designed to promote equity. And that's a word that gets thrown around a lot in education. But when you boil it down, it's really about making sure that the kids who need the most get the most. And so that's what this calendar is designed to do. I'd be the first one to say it's not a perfect calendar. It's got advantages and disadvantages, but it is one that was based in large part based on a lot of feedback that we've received and trying to put together a year-round type calendar that was responsive to some of the concerns that we had from some earlier versions. So with that, let me share the screen and let's dive in. All right, so lots of colors here. So I want to try to orient everybody to what all of these colors mean, just to make this a little bit easier. And this is July of 2021, just to orient yourself. So this is the coming July. So lots of colors. You'll see yellow the most. Yellow are regular school days. So they should add up to 180, which is a traditional number of regular school days. You'll see on this calendar, the first yellow day is August 17th. So that would be the first official day of the school year for next year for all RPS students. And you'll see that June 24th, also in red, is the last yellow day of the calendar. So that would be the official last day for all RPS students. So again, yellow days are just regular school days. You'll see a number of red days. Those are days that are off for things like winter break, holidays, things of that nature. So again, red days are days that are off due to breaks and federal holidays. Then you'll see some green days like here, July 14th and 15th. You'll also see some green days here in August 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. Those are teacher professional learning days, days when there's opportunities for teachers to get training on curriculum or classroom management skills, things of that nature. And then you'll see some purple days like here on August 13th, August 16th, also July 16th. And there's a few more throughout the year. Those are teacher work days, and those are opportunities for teachers to plan or grade or do whatever they need to do to prepare for the upcoming semester. And those are intended to be unencumbered days, and we work really hard to make sure that they remain unencumbered so that teachers can do what they need to do. So one more color before we get to the last one. You'll see a couple of gray days. You'll see here October 22nd, that's a parent conference day. There's another one in March. All right, so that leaves then the real focus of the discussion, and that's the blue days. So you'll see here in July, we have 3 weeks of blue days from July 19th all the way into August 6th. Then another set of blue days here in November 15th through the 24th. And then a final set of blue days that start February 28th and go into the first 2 weeks of March, taking us all the way to March 11th. Those are the extra days of this calendar. So again, just to be precise, the yellow days are the days that everyone would participate in. Those are the regular 180 days. The blue days are the extra days. And we're calling the blue days here in July and August jump start, because the goal is to have them serve as a jump start for kids. Then the blue days in November, we're calling fall boost. And very cleverly, the days in March, spring boost. The idea being boosting the learning and achievement of the young people who participate during these days. So these extra days would be optional. They would be optional for students and for teachers. Let me focus on students first. The goal would be to strongly encourage about 5,000 of our students, and our enrollment is about 22,000 right now. So almost a quarter of our students, focusing on young people who need the most help based on at the elementary, their reading proficiency, same at middle school, and then at the high school level, really focusing on courses that are needed for graduation. And so we would identify those young people, reach out to their families, and inquire if they would like to participate in those extra days. And we would keep going until we reached 5,000 participants. What would be different about these days is they would be very small group instruction, so no more than 8 students with a teacher. We would, again, at the elementary and middle school level, really focus a lot on reading proficiency, since that is an absolutely critical skill for everything else that you do in school. But we'd also have enrichment and acceleration opportunities for the kids, so that it feels also like a camp-like experience. And then again, at the high school level, would really be focusing on courses that are needed for graduation. The idea being to help kids stay on track or get back on track, so that they don't end up needing to retake a course or go into a credit recovery type course. And so again, the idea would be that we would identify those young people. If the families agreed, then they would come for these additional days. You'll see it's about 7 weeks of additional instruction. And the theory behind all this is, with those additional weeks of instruction, with small group focused support, that we will see significantly better outcomes from our young people. These are also opportunities to provide additional social and emotional support, not just the academic supports that I've been talking about thus far. On the teacher side, these days would also be optional. So if a teacher wanted to work these extra blue days, that would be great, and we would compensate accordingly. Normally, our extra pay for extra work for teachers is $22 an hour, but recognizing how important this work is and how much of a commitment it would be, we would be paying $40 per hour, so almost double that. And so if you worked all of the blue days, both boosts, the fall boost and the spring boost, along with the jumpstart, the pay would come out to over $10,000. So that's another exciting part of this proposal, is that it creates an opportunity for teachers to earn a lot more money on top of their normal salary. So again, but optional, teachers don't have to. And if they chose not to work those days, that's fine. Those would just be days that are off, just like summer vacation days or just like any other vacation days. And so one of the nice things about that is it would create these nice 2-week breaks in the middle of the year for teachers who choose not to work those days, it's an opportunity to rest, recharge, focus on their personal lives, or if they want to plan for the upcoming weeks of school. So that's a nice benefit of the proposal. And there's some good research which shows that having these breaks in the middle of the year can be really helpful in terms of reducing stress and improving morale amongst teachers. So that's back to students for a second. If you're a parent watching tonight and you have a young person who maybe doesn't qualify for the additional days, the question is, well, what occurs with them? Well, those would be off days. And so these 3 weeks wouldn't be all that different because they would be considered a part of a traditional summer. The biggest question is about these days in November and these days in March. For working parents, what would you do with your young people during that time? So what we're doing is we're working with the city, Parks and Rec, and lots of out-of-school time providers like Peter Paul, YMCA, Boys and Girls Club, and so on, to provide low cost, if not free, childcare options for families who are not participating in the RPS academic instructional days, so that the childcare burden wouldn't be significant for other families. I can't promise that we would have 100% slots free for every single RPS family, but we are working to try to create as many of those slots as possible. Also, I think the philanthropic community is going to be announcing, I think later this week, an effort to try to raise funds for some of those activities as well. Plus, we're very fortunate, we're likely to get additional funds from the Biden stimulus, which I'm hoping we would be able to use to perhaps offset the cost of some of those things as well. So that's what would go on for young people who are not participating in those days. One of the questions I've received is, would teachers have to work all of the blue days, or could they pick a chunk of the blue days? It would be ideal if teachers opted into all of the blue days, but we recognize that some may only want to do a portion, and that will be an option. Similarly, it would be ideal for young people to participate in all of the blue days to get the maximum impact of the extra instruction. But we also recognize some families may not be able to do that or may not want to choose to do that. And so we would create some flexibility for that as well. So I'm going to pause there. I want to make sure that we have lots of time for questions and discussion. And I just want to say thank you to everybody. I know there are strong feelings about this kind of a calendar change. And I think all of these perspectives are 100% valid. And as I said, there are pros and cons, no doubt. I am transparently a supporter of this calendar. I think it is a great opportunity for us really to, again, advance the cause of equity, provide more opportunities for kids who need more, and some great opportunities for our staff to earn more if they would like to do so, again, on an optional basis. But would love to hear your questions, try to clear up any misconceptions, and hear your feedback. And so with that, I'll stop and turn it back over to Dr. Harris. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Kamras. So let's start the conversation. Again, you can put a comment or a question in the chat, or at the bottom using the reactions button, you can raise your hand and we would be happy to call on you so you can share your comment. So I'm going to our question. First question is from Sarah Beth, who says, in the meeting with the VDOE, Dr. Lane mentioned that there are grants available for school districts to use for a planning year. Are we considering taking that grant money to plan this calendar change for 22-23? The teachers and students would benefit from a full summer break after a particularly draining year, and more time to ready the schools due to COVID would seem beneficial. Thank you.
So thanks for raising the point that Dr. Lane made. He actually indicated that if we were to move forward with this next year, that they would waive the sort of planning year requirements of that potentially, and just make those funds available for RPS for implementation. So that was very exciting for us to hear. Certainly, I understand the desire for a quote unquote regular summer, and certainly appreciate that. At the same time, I do think given the impact that this year has had on so many of our students, that creating an opportunity for something like this would be incredibly valuable. Also, on the point around, just focusing more on just getting the facilities ready for the fall, I do want to know whether the school board approves this calendar or not. We really do need to have things in good shape come, middle, late July, because even if they don't approve this calendar, we would want to offer a robust summer intervention program. And that's going to require us to use most, if not all, of our facilities anyway. So I do think regardless, the goal is to have our facilities in the shape that they need to be in come that third week of July.
So the next question, and the reason why you see Monica Murray in the chat a lot is she sent out that link. So we have a lot of Monica Murrays, which means her engagement has been amazing. But if you want to rename yourself, feel free and we'll address you by name. If not, I'll just read the question for those. So the next question is wondering why the extra days are coming so early in March instead of the end of the month.
Before I answer that, I just want to note that if there was a way to clone Monica Murray, I would be happy. So at the end of the month, the way we set it up is there's about 3 weeks of traditional instruction between each of the extra sessions. So you'll see first we have about 3 months leading up to the November one. Then we have another 3 months, December, January, February, which takes us to the March. And then we have about 3.5 months at the end. Look, these kinds of extra sessions, sometimes called intersessions, they can be placed really anywhere in the calendar. Sometimes calendars like this have 3 extra sessions during the year. In fact, our original draft had that. We pulled it back to 2 because of the concern that some families expressed about childcare. We could certainly move this further down to the end of March and have it connect with spring break. It just makes it a little bit further away in terms of instruction that happens, in the prior 3 months. So we were just trying to balance and create a roughly equal number of instructional days between these extra sessions.
Tyler is asking, Governor Northam made Election Day a public holiday last year. Looking at the calendar, I see that Election Day 2021 is considered a full school day. Is this an oversight?
Yes, it's an oversight. We have to change that.
Okay. Can you please outline the differences of a full year calendar would bring versus a traditional summer school for select students? Is there value in having all students participate in the boost sessions? And that's from Adam.
Well, if we had all students participate in the boost sessions, basically we would just have a longer school year. We would just have instead of a 180-day school year, we'd have like a 200-day school year or a 210 or 220-day school year. I would be okay with that. The challenge with that, though, is it then becomes required for everyone. And so that then takes away the opportunity for teachers to decide if they want to work the extra days or not. So, for example, if we went to a 220-day calendar, that would be adding 40 instructional days, which is basically 8 additional weeks. Of course, there would be an increase in compensation accordingly, but then it wouldn't be optional. Then we would be running the entire school system, all 22,000 kids, all 4,000 employees for those 200 instructional days. And so this is a bit of a compromise to try to add additional instructional time for a prioritized set of students and thereby also creating an option for teachers to work the other days as opposed to a requirement. I'd also note that, if we were to go to 200 or 220 days, for everyone, it becomes very expensive very quickly because you're you are running the entire operations of the school system for those extra days. So that was another consideration as we thought about sustainability over the long term.
Great. And Danielle shared that I do think this should be beneficial for the 2022-23 year. Throwing kids into this after a full year of online learning could have negative effects. Kids are burnt out already. Also, who qualifies as a priority student?
We would look at some of our assessments to give us a sort of first cut of who would be prioritized at the little ones level, sort of pre-K, K1, 2. We have a literacy screener called PALS that would be helpful in determining some prioritization. When you get a little bit older on the elementary end and into middle school, we have a MAP assessment, which we could use. And then at the high school level, looking at grades for, again, classes needed for graduation. We would also look at WIDA scores. That's for our English learner students. That's critical. And, look at IEPs as well to determine if there are certain special education students that, if for some reason didn't qualify in other ways, would qualify for some additional support.
There was another calendar proposed in the fall where the boosts were scheduled for October, February, rather than November, March. Sarah wants to know, why isn't that calendar being considered any longer?
Yeah, my recollection is they were October, February, and then there was another one, I believe, later in the spring. And again, the concern we heard was there's just too much time, too many breaks. And for families who were not participating, a concern about additional days away. I like that calendar, but this is an effort to be responsive to the feedback. And that's really what it is. It's a compromise to try to achieve the aims, but really be responsive to those very understandable concerns.
I'm going to take one more from the chat, and then I'm going to turn it over to you, Moose, to call on some hands that have been raised. So Malachi is asking, what about the students who choose not to go in person?
Yes, we will have a fully virtual option as well for families next year. So just to be clear, we will make in-person instruction available to 100% of our students if they want it. But if there are families who are still concerned about in-person come the summer, fall, whatever calendar the board approves, we will have a fully virtual option for those families.
Thank you. Moose?
All right, good evening, folks. Please forgive me if I butcher a name, but the first hand I saw come up was Lawan Trusty. And I am asking you to unmute now.
All right, how you doing? So first off, I just want to say thank you for having this meeting. I had two questions. One, how does this apply to alternative education? And two, will we not benefit from a more intense summer school and then rolling this out in 22-23?
Thank you for the questions. On the alternative programs, for example, like RAS, our Richmond Alternative School, they would run on the same calendar as this one, so everybody would participate. And then on the, whether we should start this for the coming year or the following year, like I completely understand the perspective of implementing it a year from now, and understand folks wanting to kind of get back into a normal rhythm first. And that's a completely understandable position. I'm advocating for us to do it now, just given what I'm expecting to be just a significant depth of need. And while the summer program, whether we do it through the Jumpstart or other means, will be helpful, I think having these boost sessions throughout the year to provide that extra, very small group intensive support is going to be extraordinarily helpful. But like it's not the only thing we're going to do. We have 180 yellow days and certainly not as many blue days. So regardless of which path we take, we will also make sure to provide and maintain some of the supports we've already started putting in place, things like tutoring, looking at additional after school or before school sessions and so on. But look, on balance, I think this is the direction we should go for this coming year, just given how significant I think the needs are going to be. I know it's a big change, and I understand that there's always concern about change, particularly after a year of change. But I actually think this would put our kids on a really solid footing, and that would really accelerate them forward. And I think that's just going to be critical coming out of COVID.
Moose, the next hand.
Next up, we have Ansley Perkins.
Hi there. First, thank you so much to the administration for starting these conversations, and look forward to more meetings and discussions about this. Two questions. My first question is, why is a year option the only option style being proposed? And I'll pause and let you answer that question.
Again, this is what the school board directed the administration to come up with is a year-round proposal. So that's why we really did focus on year-round.
Okay. And so certainly we've been hearing feedback from school board members as well as teachers and staff about other options. So that brings me to my second question. What about consideration for other options, such as what Virginia Beach is doing or other school systems? Will that be introduced as well?
If the school board does not approve of this calendar, then we will have to look at other options. So I'm gonna let's see what the board decides on Monday, and then we can kind of take it from there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. And our next up is Ruth Green. They may have stepped away from the computer for a moment. I've asked them to unmute. Is there another?
Oh, here we go. I'm sorry.
I thought
I'm so sorry. Thank you for having this meeting. I thought you had unmuted me. On those blue days, are those only for certain students? And what do the other students do? Is that time off for them? And then I'll let you answer that. But then I had a question about the year-round thing as well.
Yes, those are for about 5,000 prioritized students, and it would be off for other students. Earlier, I had talked about we're working with various after school and other camp providers to try to provide low cost, potentially even free options for other families.
Okay. And then I think I share the sentiment of some of the others that this year-round thing, giving us some time to adjust, not just because of change, but you know, my son, this is his first year in Richmond Public School. All of his friends are going to school in some form or another. He's the only one who's had nothing. So we went out of our way to make plans in the summer. So for people who are already doing things in August, now we have to either cancel those or forfeit things, to start at a time when we would not normally have had school. I just think there's not enough notice, and I don't, and have they asked the kids how they feel about it? Because I think they're feeling, I didn't get to see my friends at all. So summer is the only time I have. Now they're taking summer away.
So like, I certainly understand the concern about, plans that have been made. I do want to, though, clarify, I think some folks have kind of interpreted year round to mean literally school every single day. There's still a significant summer even under this calendar. So if we go back up here, if you chose not to participate in the extra days, we get out this year, I believe, on June 18th. So there's a couple of weeks in June, there's the whole month of July, and then there's 2 weeks in August. So we're still talking about an 8-week, I believe, summer for families who did not want to participate in these extra days. So I did want to clarify that. It's certainly not the summer that, you know, folks may be used to, a 11 or 12-week summer, but there is still a very substantial amount of time over this coming summer.
All right, I think that's all the hands I see, so I'm going to go back to the chat. Camila is asking, how does the Jumpstart Days impact 12-month staff? Is it mandatory for administrators and counselors? If not, can they opt on to work if interested, opt into work if interested, and be compensated?
So for 12-month employees, these wouldn't be extra days because they're part of the 12-month tour of duty. So for example, an administrator who's a 12-month employee, there would not be extra compensation because they're already at a 12-month pay scale. It's for any employee, you know, on a 10-month or anything that's, you know, not anticipating a 12-month tour of duty, that those folks would have the opportunities for the additional compensation.
Serena is asking, my son is transitioning to high school next year. How do I communicate that I am interested in keeping him in the virtual learning program next year? Are Blue Days available under virtual learning?
So once, you know, once the decision is made about the calendar, then there's a series of next steps. And, you know, one of those will be reaching out to families. If, for example, this were approved, then we would reach out to eligible families, see what they would be interested in. And part of that process would be asking families if they want to remain virtual or not. We would, you know, do that a little bit later in the spring because we're going to need sort of a hard and fast commitment from families about that so that we can plan for the number of students who want to remain virtual as opposed to in person, and then staff accordingly. So that will come a little bit later in the spring.
Jeff is asking, if a student is held back a year, is there time for them to recover in summer school?
I think it really depends on what grade the student is in and how significant the concerns are. You know, if it's you know, in a secondary grade, it may not be possible to recover everything over the course of the summer. If it is, you know, one of the younger grades, that might be different. So I would recommend, if anyone needs additional details on that question, to reach out to your school's principal to try to get some additional information about the specific needs of your child.
Great. Why have you not engaged students in this conversation? It seems to affect our kids more than anyone, but they did not receive a chance to share their feedback.
We've had a lot of kids actually respond on the survey, on the family survey. I also have discussed this with my student advisory council, which is a group of high school students. And so we have certainly had opportunities for kids to weigh in, but I welcome more. A lot of kids have emailed in and shared their perspectives. And again, you know, through the survey and through other means, have made their voices heard as well. You know, obviously, you know, particularly at the younger ages, you know, if you ask, if I ask my own 2 kids, hey, how does more school sound? They're not exactly gonna necessarily leap for joy, but you know, at the high school level, for example, my high school student advisory group, it was really interesting. They talked about, in particular, these boost sessions as an opportunity for them to catch up and kind of de-stress from the rigors of the semester. And they actually kind of liked that it was in the middle of the semester. You'll note January 21st here is a purple day. That's the 90th day of school. And so that's the transition point between the first semester and the second semester. They kind of like that these boost sessions were in the middle of the semesters because it really gave them an opportunity to catch up on their work. If they needed to work to make money, they could do that. And so I was actually happily surprised by how excited they were by this. Certainly, I know student opinion is varied, but that is certainly one data point.
Great. Can we see a Plan B calendar that is not year-round but provides robust boost sessions beginning this summer?
Certainly. Again, I want to see what the board decides. I think if this is not approved, what we would likely end up with is a more traditional calendar with summer school. It might look like this, but without the boosts in November and in March. And so, again, we'll see what the board decides and go from there.
Lynn wants to know, would students participating in Jumpstart and Boost sessions be doing so at their regular school?
I think most would. The reason I'm saying most and not all is because if, for example, we had a school that, only had 20 students participating, and a neighboring school had 200 students participating, for efficiency's sake, we might have those 20 go with the 200. So again, that would kind of be based on, identifying the kids, then seeing which families opt in and then making those determinations.
Jaquetta was asking, have the votes come in to go forward with all year schooling? The school board will be discussing this at their upcoming board meeting this Monday, Jaquetta. Chanel, will the focus courses at high school level taught in the Jumpstart, the fall boost, and the spring boost be determined by the number of teachers opting in?
Well, based on our survey data, it looks like we would have enough teachers who would opt in. So we're shooting for 5,000 students, and then we would recruit teachers, based on those needs, and some percentage of that will be high school students, and we would of course need high school teachers for that.
Moose, let's go to some hands that are raised. And just a reminder, we would love to hear your voice. If you're comfortable, feel free to raise your hand and we'll call on you. After which I will have Ms. Bailey take over with the questions.
The next hand that I see raised is Harris Wheeler.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir. I spoke to you earlier this week on the Gary Flower Show, and I've been hearing a little bit about this 12-month school. I, as a former teacher, had a summer program and I actually volunteered as a teacher to help the kids understand and develop a work ethic. A lot of our students do not have work ethics, a good, strong work ethic. It's book work and hands-on is just not there. And so I'm concerned about a frame of time where the students can gain valuable experience working, because that is the ultimate goal, is to have a productive student. And a lot of students graduate with a nice piece of paper and they're not being productive. There's a tremendous amount of, well, I don't know the percentage now, but a lot of students are dropping out. The attendance is very poor, and there's discipline issues. I know because I worked in the school system. So this looks nice on paper, but in actuality, if I was a teacher right now, I'm like, now how is that going to work? Because motivation is so key for these kids. The motivation has to be there, and giving them more paperwork and saying, well, we're going to do this. If I was a student, and you remember me sharing the other day, I went in my senior year in high school, my first semester, I had 4 Fs. I mean, I was about to drop out. And now I'm embracing education and going to school now. I'm almost 70 years old. So the motivation had to be there. So it doesn't matter how we make it look pretty on paper and we give them more classes. If we do not find a way to motivate our students and get the parents involved, all of this is going to be just a new concept that's not going to work. And I'm not throwing you under the bus, Superintendent. I'm really not. I love these kids. I still have a passion for kids because I've almost been a victim of not surviving. And so I know, especially young men, I went to school for 4 reasons: basketball, music, lunch. We had good lunches, and girls. That was it. And so, but when I got older, I matured. So a lot of young men think the way I think now. Women is a little bit different. So I'm asking and pleading, please, let's make sure that we're not just making a new program that looks beautiful, but the end results is dropout, poor attendance, discipline issues. Those things need to be addressed. And you may have addressed it, I don't know, but, and I'm sure you have, but I think the community, and that's my thing right now, the community has got to get involved, because we have an opportunity to, and you got a new contract and we want to help you. I want to be involved more. And so I'm gonna stop talking.
Well, thank you, Mr. Wheeler. And it's good to hear your voice again. And look, I agree. We have to motivate our students, and that comes from all different kinds of places and sources. It's one of the reasons, one of the things we want to offer as part of this is more enrichment activities for our kids, so that it is an exciting and engaging opportunity for them. We still have summer days here built in for other kinds of opportunities, but your larger point, continuing to motivate and inspire kids and help them see the future is absolutely what this is about. So looking forward to continuing to work with you.
Okay, good evening. Our next question is from Maria. How are children being identified as needing boost sessions?
So we would look at some literacy, some reading assessments that we use to identify children who are significantly below grade level in terms of reading proficiency. But we'd also likely look at teacher recommendations and other assessments to make that determination. We want to ensure we do everything we can to accelerate those young people so that they feel confident and ready for class, after the jumpstart, after the boost sessions. There's nothing as frustrating and damaging to one's self-esteem if you feel like you can't, read at the same level as your peers, and it's a real struggle. It can be so frustrating. And so we really want to try to tackle that. And we know if we do, there's nothing stopping our young people. So if we can just get every single RPS student reading on or above grade level, again, it's a big part of our strategic plan. So this fits very nicely with that. The benefits for every other year that they're in school and thereafter in life are just huge.
Okay, good. The next question is from Karen. Are the same number of snow/bad weather days built in? And another question, would students have to do virtual on snow days?
So we would still have snow days like normal. And no, I don't think next year they would necessarily have to do virtual on snow days.
Question from Chanel. How will the Jumpstart, Fall Boost, and Spring Boost model affect 11-month employees?
That depends a little bit on the specific tour of duty of the 11-month employees. Now, some of those work more at the end of the year, some work more at the beginning of the year. So my request would be if the individual asking the question could shoot me an email and let me try to get some more details about the specific job title, and then I can follow up on that.
A question from Darvina. What measures are being taken to ensure that the staff and students are returning to a safe environment? Some buildings are in poor condition and are in need of total renovations.
So we are doing a number of things. We have 56, I believe it is, HVAC projects, many of which have been underway for some time, and more that are being done right now will be done over the next couple of months. We're installing bipolar ionization technology into our schools, which is a way of filtering the air. We know that in some of our buildings where windows may not open, or there are internal rooms without windows, we're going to put in-room air filtration standalone units. So a lot of different things. We have hand sanitizer stations in every classroom, every common area, temperature scanners for every student and staff member as they enter the building, signage throughout the building. We're stocking up nursing suites. We'll have a nurse in every single school, adding additional custodians. So a lot happening. I do want to be very transparent though. We are not renovating all of our schools up to, modern standards in the way one would normally think of a renovation. That's just simply not possible given the resources we have and the time that we have. That would be a roughly $1 billion with a B dollar expenditure to modernize all of our schools, and it would take several years. So we're going to do all kinds of things to make sure that the air quality is good, and that we have all of our bathrooms up to grade, that we have all the supplies, all the protocols, masks, everything. And by then, all of our staff should be vaccinated, and hopefully most family members should be vaccinated. So we should be in a really strong place come late summer.
Okay. A question from Adam, along with a comment. If the extra days are only for priority students, what is the benefit of this versus summer school? For the majority of students, it seems this just rearranges the calendar days to benefit fewer students.
So 2 benefits. One, generally speaking, having a somewhat shorter summer, there's a lot of research which shows benefits all students. That's number 1. Number 2, having these boost sessions in the middle of the year is very beneficial in a way that summer school can't be. Because they come in the middle of the year, they provide opportunities to ensure students who maybe started catching up in the summer stay caught up, and we're able to intervene a few months into the year and then a few months into the year again. So it's this periodic opportunity to intervene and provide support, which is really the kind of the magic sauce to all of this, on top of which having a somewhat shorter summer for all students means that the loss of learning that occurs over the summer will be less.
I have a question.
There's a couple hands up, so I'm going to move to Jaquetta Moore.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this evening and the opportunity to speak. I wanted to speak towards Mr. Wheeler. Well, first of all, thank you so much, honestly. Mr. Superintendent, I wanted to just praise you for all your efforts. I know that Mr. Wheeler was saying about community and how we need to come together. This is the first step in my small community that I'm trying to participate with, the parents that I'm still involved with, all the students that I can engage with. I'm a rising 6th grader parent. So we're trying to make sure that normalcy is met any way possible with all the students that have come together through VPI or and all the way up to 5th grade or other opportunities to meet other students. What my point is here this evening is just to say that the community that needs to speak up and join hands and or just try to reach out. If we are going to build a community of yellow pages or some type of telephone reach out program for students and parents, that's something I want to get behind. If there's a committee that's looking to continue to have a community base for these meetings to go on in our districts or in our local schools, I would love to get more information as to how we can have that conversation continue.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Harris, I'm sure, has some thoughts on that. This is the bread and butter of what she leads and is so wonderfully skilled at it.
Yes, I would love to connect with you. This is I'm coming back from maternity leave and just want to, really commend Dr. Aaron Brown, Matthew Stanley and the engagement team, but also all the principals who've worked really hard to engage families and communities. But we are going to just kind of continue to take it to new levels, holding more meetings regionally, connecting with physicians and people in the community and partnerships. So I would love to talk to you more. My email is sharris1@rvaschools.net. Again, that's sharris1@rvaschools.net. And again, feel free to reach out to me, or if you guys just have ideas, I want to continue to make this a conversation. I believe that the answers to becoming more united lie with the community members, and we want to get as close to you as possible. So shoot me an email, and would love to talk to you more about it. Do we have any more hands, Moose?
Yes, we have Ruth with another comment and question.
Yes, thank you so much. Again, this is super helpful, and I agree with the previous speaker. I really hope there are ways that we can engage the kids to get to know more students. My son is a freshman in high school, and it's his first time in RPS, so he literally hasn't had the opportunity to meet a single other student. So I would definitely want to join that conversation as well. But back to this whole school board, can you go through the steps, I guess, by which this decision becomes final, the process, and are there any other points along the way where families and students' voices can be heard in that process?
Sure. So the school board will be voting on Monday at the school board meeting, and that will be the final decision on this. Between now and then, you are encouraged to share your thoughts. You can email school board members directly. All of their emails are on the RPS website. You can also send in any of your thoughts to public comment, which is cataloged and shared at the school board meeting. The address for that is speakers with an S at rvaschools.net. So all of those are great opportunities to ensure that your voice is heard.
And Nanette, we probably have time for 2 more questions if you want to read them from the chat. You're on mute.
Sorry about that. I'm here. We have a question, and it's about Jumpstart. Could Jumpstart begin on August 16th to give students somewhat of a summer break?
Well, anything is possible, but we created it this way to not only afford the opportunity for the Jumpstart, but to also have the boost sessions. So that's why there's an earlier start.
Okay, and there's another question from Ruth. Are these times, the ones that are colored in blue as boost, only for some students, or is this time off for the rest of the students?
So yes, the blue days would be for about 5,000 students prioritized, and then those times would be off for other students. And again, we're working with camp providers and after-school providers to provide opportunities at a very low cost, potentially even free for children who are not participating in the boost sessions.
Okay, there's a question from Bonnie. Could we have the chance to vote as a community on this calendar versus the calendar proposed in the fall?
Certainly we've had a survey open where folks have been able to weigh in. Ultimately, the community elects the school board members, and then the school board members vote and make those decisions on behalf of all stakeholders. So I know they're all thinking through this very, very diligently and talking to all of their constituents to try to get a good sense of how to proceed. So again, I think the best thing to do is whatever your perspective is, reach out to your school board member, let them know, and share your feedback, whether it's supportive or needs not supportive, or you have ideas for modifications. All of that is very, very helpful.
Okay, And I'm going to give this back to Dr. Harris.
Okay.
Thank you. We will end with the last two hands. Moose, if you want to unmute Holly Walker.
Hi, is this me?
It's you.
I have a three-part question. Number one, will our students with the most intensive needs automatically be included in the Boost and Jumpstart programs?
Yes, the word intensive means different things to different people, but I think generally the answer is yes.
Okay. And number two, will students participating in these extra sessions be in their home classrooms with their teachers or a teacher from that building they would recognize?
I think many would, but I can't promise that all would. And that's only because we would have to see how many students and what grades and that sort of thing by building. So for example, if we had one building where there were 20 students participating and a neighboring school where there were 200 students participating, we might want to merge those 20 with the 200 just to make things simpler and more efficient.
Okay, great. And third question is, and I think I know the answer to this, but will all students, whether they participate or not, still have access to breakfast and lunch every day?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay, thank you. And sorry about the S-bomb. Somebody pulled up that was too loud. I couldn't hear you.
This is a one of a kind year, so no problem.
Okay.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you.
Ms. Gibson, did you want to say a few words before Superintendent Kamras closes us out?
Sure thing. Thank you so much. So yeah, I just wanted to share, I think it was really helpful to hear all the perspectives and to get this insight. And I want to be, transparent where I'm at on this particular vote. Like many of you, I am a parent and serve on the school board. And I think that this idea has a lot of merit. And because of that, I think that we as a district, need to make sure that we give it the time to make sure that we're doing it right. And so I would have hoped that we could have had more conversations like this throughout, to have this conversation and then to be voting, as it on a board on Monday. I'm not sure that gives us enough time to be able to react from what we've heard. People are talking about different options. And I think that it's important for us as a board to be able to react and respond to the things that we're hearing in the community. I would look, when I ran the first time, and one of the things that I talked to when I met with the REA is that I can appreciate how much our district is impacted by so much change, and change is absolutely good, but it also needs to be paced in such a way that we can digest it. And this year, I know, parents and staff alike have adjusted to an incredible amount of change, new curriculum, new scheduling, obviously doing all of these things online. And so we need to make sure that what we are creating is something that we can all live with and adjust with and digest. And so my hope is, my vote on Monday will reflect that perspective. I would love to see additional options presented to the board, expanded summer school. I also suggested that we look at adding additional days to the calendar. I mean, even if it was just a few days, that would be for everyone in the district. I think that would create at least more breathing space for us all, because as I'm a parent and I sit and I watch my son go from class to class to class, and we talk about, social emotional learning. Right now, the schedule, from my perspective, there's just not enough time to breathe. And so I think that there would be an incredible benefit to adding in that, that breathing space. I would also love to see options with an expanded summer school. If not this upcoming summer, then next summer, which I think would make a lot of sense, so we can see where everyone is at and what those needs are. And you know, the other piece I think that I think is really important to consider is you know, is our staff and their ability to manage a change of this size. We have you know, teachers that have summer jobs that they depend on, and if they aren't interested or not able to participate in teaching during those intersessions, they may be forced to make a choice. Likewise, if they have kids that are in other districts, you know, they may be forced to make a choice. And we've lost a lot of teachers, and I don't want them to have to make that choice, particularly right now at this time. I know as a district, we are craving stability. And so that's what my vote will reflect. And I hope that we do have more options so that we can make some equitable decisions. And this is all about equity, whether you approve the calendar or not. You know, I think that the way we approach this has to be done sensitively, understanding the incredible needs that we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gibson. Dr. Harris Mohammed, I also see your hand up. Did you want to say a few words?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Harris. First of all, I want to thank you all again for being with us this evening during your supper time, play time, read time, whatever time that you hold valuable in the evening. We really appreciate you. I want to give you some homework if I can. Everyone who's watching, I want you to, tonight, the next couple of days, I want you to do this for us, for me. Take a sheet of paper, draw two columns, draw a line on the sheet of paper, a horizontal line, and make two columns. And in one of the columns, you put benefits of this proposed calendar. In the second column, you put no benefits, lack of benefits, need more information. And I want you to reflect and ponder on those two columns. All of the information that you've heard from our superintendent, the surveys that you were able to take, I want you to reflect on how this will impact you and your family if you have a child in Richmond City Public Schools. Wherever we stand, however we vote on Monday, your voice must be heard. And I've watched the chat, and I know some of you feel as though that your questions were not addressed. An hour might not have been enough for us. But one of the things that I want to publicly say is that I appreciate the administration, particularly Dr. Harris, coming back from maternity leave and hearing the school board's plea of, can we quickly have this and make this happen? And so she did that. So I want to acknowledge that work that she did to quickly put these community conversations together. I really appreciate Mr. Kamras. I too learned something different that I didn't hear him say when he presented this before. And that's a good thing. As an educator who has worked in a division year-round school, the division that I worked in, year-round school calendar is not going to look like the calendar that was proposed this evening. I want to hear from you. I want to be able to read your comments. I want to be able to, you can even scan me your benefits or lack thereof. I want to hear what you have to say and share that with other people, particularly those individuals who were not able to share their thoughts with us this evening. One more thing that I want to leave with you as well. It's not a lot of homework, but I also want you to be able to ask yourself, how will my child, this is very important, because all the decisions that we make at the end of the day, regardless of their zip code, is about children. How will this impact your child? period. Regardless of what the superintendent says, regardless of what anyone else says, we need to be able to hear your heart. And you have to be transparent with that, because we also throw that word out. So I just want to thank you again, thank the administration for providing this town hall conversation. I look forward to many of your homework assignments via email, scan to me so I can see what you're thinking. Because for me as a person who, and I will share this with you, who grew up with a disability, I need to be able to see it. I need to be able to hear it so I can do it. And so whatever decision that I make on Monday, please know that I'm going to always lead with grace, poise, and a positive attitude. So always reach out to me. I put my email in the chat box. Thank you all so very much from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate you. You can also call me and share with me your thoughts. So again, Dr. Harris, thank you. Superintendent Kamras, thank you so very much. Nanette Bailey, thank you so very much. And all of our other RPS staff that I can't see. Matthew, thank you for making sure that I got in this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you to our students who attended this evening. Thank you. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Dr. Harris Muhammad. I want to thank everyone for coming on tonight. I know we did not get to all the questions. There's just not enough time, everybody, but we are committed to answering every single question. So if your question was not answered, you can always email outreach@rvaschools.net. Superintendent Kamras is not shy about giving out his email address, jkamras@rvaschools.net, or myself, sharris1@rvaschools.net. But we want to make sure that we hear you. We also copied all the questions in the chat, and we'll try to get those answers out in our RPS Direct as well. So Superintendent Kamras, I'll give it to you for the last word.
Thank you so much, Dr. Harris. I just want to check. I know we had Ms. White and Mr. Young on earlier. If they're still here and they would like to share any final words, I just want to make sure they have that opportunity.
Jason, thank you. I'll just share that I'm most grateful, like everyone else, for the opportunity to listen to everybody's thoughts this evening. Thank you for coming out. Thanks all.
And Ms. White, are you still there? All right, maybe she had to get going. So, well, thank you, Mr. Young, and thank you, Ms. White, for making the time to be here. And thank you to everybody. I won't keep you any longer. Appreciate all your interest and feedback and questions, and hope you have a wonderful evening. Thanks, everyone.